Hello and welcome to a CBK gaming video. Join us as we discuss and review Aliens: Another Glorious Day in the Core by Gale Force 9. So what is Aliens: Another Glorious Day in the Core? It's a 1 to 6 player cooperative survival board game where you, as the colonial marines that we all know and love, such as Hudson, Hicks, Frost, there's Ripley, must survive and achieve the goals on their mission cards. Now, there are 3 campaign missions that are interlinked, and there are, I think, another 3 missions that you can then play after that are individual survival missions, etc, etc. This is the core game, and we'll be looking at the expansion later on. At its heart, this is a deeply thematic game, conjuring the images from those Alien and Aliens films. It's rich with dark, strange, alien-esque creatures hunting you down. They start as blips, they get closer and closer until suddenly they're in line of sight and they turn into these alien figures that you need to gun down or burn or run away from if you can. You can barricade yourself in, but the aliens can force their way through. You can help resuscitate a downed marine. You can defend yourself. You can have some defensive fire against aliens as they get close to you. But each time you fire, your aim is getting that little bit worse. That's how this game comes across. It's a quite fast-paced game, but everything is measured. You have a tracker for your aiming. As I said, every time you shoot, that aim gets a little bit worse. And the roll of the dice, whereas the first shot required a 6 or less to hit, the next shot will be a 5 or less. The shot after that will be 4. Each time you fire, you move endurance cards into your exhausted pile. Eventually you will get through these endurance cards. They are everything. They are used to use any of your special abilities, to use your flamethrower, to use your smart gun, to use your pulse rifle. Sometimes you'll have to move them to the discard pile. At some point you'll get to the shuffle card, reshuffle card, you'll shuffle the exhaustion, but not the discard pile, and the endurance back into the endurance deck. If at any time you have no cards left in either the exhaust or the endurance pile and they're all in the discard pile, you have lost the game. We have played this a number of times, and each time these cards were very close to being run out. We've got through the reshuffle a number of times. Each time we've played this, it's been very, very close, with a lot of aliens being left behind on the board. It's great fun. In the UK, you can expect to pay about £40 for the base game, and the expansion is around £40. The other little expansions between, I think, £12 and £20. Does it belong in your collection? Well, the components for the game are well made for the price point.
Yeah.
The alien models I really like. The colonial marines were a pain to put together. They're not that difficult. They're not as difficult as some Games Workshop models that can be at times. But I don't think they're particularly well crafted. But they don't need to be for this. It's a board game. It's not a... you're not using these miniatures in some sort of skirmish game or anything like that. I have no drive or desire to paint these models in the way that I have for, say, Folklore or Lord of the Rings.
But it is worth noting the time that's needed to put the figures together before you can get the board game. If you're used to buying a board game, opening it up and playing, this isn't going to happen with this one. You need time to sit and glue the figures together. But I actually really enjoy putting the Alien figures together because they have allowed for a bit of individuality. All the arms and the tails are interchangeable, so you pick what stance you want them in. So you make your own aliens, and I really like that. But it's kept it in the same thing. The core of the monster is the alien. And I also love, in the cards, you've got actual still shots from the films.
Yes.
Which adds to how thematic it is, and it makes you want to watch the films again.
Yeah, absolutely. And all the way through, the rule book has stills from the film. And it really does, as you say, I really want to go and watch the films again.
Yeah.
The fighting is done on 10-sided die. When you roll a dice, you have a certain number you need to get below. If you don't, then you miss. That's it. Nice and simple. You have a 6-sided dice for determining the movement of the blips. And it's quite a simple game. Going back to the components, the card stock for the boards. The disappointment for me is there's only 4 boards. They are double-sided. It just feels that there is limited boards to play on. But then you look at the missions, and how much colour variation can you have in a spaceship, especially from Alien. The expansion does give you another 4 boards and does build on the initial missions. So I'm looking forward to trying that. They make the board slightly bigger.
Yeah.
The weapons all feel quite useful. Doesn't seem to be anything that isn't useful. Every time you draw a card, you're wondering whether you're going to get a hazard card. They can be quite detrimental. It might be that you've got a rage and you lose one of your aim, so you're always one less on the die. And if you don't attack, you get some penalties too. Going to the card stock for the actual items, the endurance cards and the alien spawn, they're not great quality. They look good, but I've noticed ours after a couple of games have started to mark. We haven't sleeved them. I think that's probably something you'll want to do if you want to add to the longevity of this game. But what is really good are the trackers for your aim, and all those are very well done. So it is a little bit disappointing to see that the card stock for the actual cards isn't particularly good. But the question that we always like to answer is, does it belong in your collection, and why does it belong in your collection? Well, if you're a fan of the films, yes, it really does. It captures more so than almost any other Alien game I've played, with the exception of, ironically, Space Hulk, which has always felt that Alien link, which I know you haven't played. If you want a good cooperative game that can play with 6 players, which again can be quite rare, you have 5s, and sometimes we've looked to have a 6-player game, and it's been difficult. So again, if you're looking for a 6-player game, if you like space-inspired games that take, and we were taking between an hour and an hour and a half to play. Once we got the rules down pat, it was about an hour. That was for 2 players. I expect with more players, you're going to be a bit longer, probably. And I know the box states up to 2 hours, and I think that's an accurate assessment if you have 6 players. I know that one of the expansions allows you to play the Alien, and I think that would be great fun. Overall, I'm pleased that we've got this.
Yeah.
I think if you like cooperative games, as we say, if you like Aliens, if you like space games, this sits in your collection. It's quite a small box. One of the only things which I would call out as a difficulty from this is you can't fit the miniatures in the box once you put them together. But that's not a massive problem. We can find somewhere to put them. But I know sometimes people like to put everything in one box.
Yeah. And it's something bearing in mind, if you haven't got loads of room to store games, you are going to need a separate box or somewhere to put the figures.
So would you recommend this to be in somebody's collection, and why?
I would, because if you like sci-fi, and it is so thematic for the films, and if you haven't seen the films, it actually gets you thinking, because it's got little quotes about them, it's got stills, it gets you into the mood for them. And yeah, just based on how thematic it is, I really enjoy this. It's standing out for me as a really good alien based game.
So in my mind, this is a great game. It's one of those games that I would opt to play. I would pick, if we had friends around, when we're out of lockdown and people can come around again, I would opt to sit and play with my friends. Sometimes there are games that I will play because others choose to pick them. This is one that, if somebody asked my opinion what we'd like to play, this would be on my list, alongside things like Zombicide and games which you can play with a nice group of people. Is it a gateway game? I think you could use it as a gateway game. It's not, the rules aren't complex. Yeah. The complexity is in the strategy and thought process to try and survive the game. I think there's enough randomization to make it replayable. I do think the expansion is, I wouldn't like to say essential, but I think it will add, because it adds those other boards.
I think it's going to add longevity to it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, knowing the expansion, the first mission on this game, the expansion changes the whole layout, doesn't it?
Well, not the whole layout.
It adds
a couple more boards.
Yeah.
And changes the mission status.
So knowing that you've got a slightly bigger map that you've got to go and do the mission again, but this time it's not just down this corridor and there's going to be a bonus point here. It's getting across the board, and I think that adds some longevity to it.
Okay, that's our review of Aliens: Another Glorious Day in the Core. I will link through to Meet Me at the Table and his playthrough, so you can actually see this being played. We will look at the expansions. We want to play, as you know, we play each game at least 5 times before we look to review it. We wanted to play this particular mission layout in this core set, and we'll then play the expansion in the same way, and then we can give an honest opinion on whether the expansion adds, as we think it will, to the, not just the longevity, but to the value of the game, because that does double the price of the game. Instead of paying between £40 and £45, you're going to be looking at paying £80 to £90 for the game. And is it worth that when you have other games of that value? So we will be reviewing that, but it will be probably about a month, 2 months' time. All that is left to say is thank you very much for watching. We really appreciate it. If you have enjoyed what you've seen, please consider liking and subscribing. It does mean a lot to us. We really want to grow this channel. Any ideas on what you'd like to see? For example, if you want to see us look at the expansions really soon, then let us know, because we can try and push that ahead in our plans. We do plan on looking at, expansion-wise, we're looking at Bloodborne's large box expansions. We really enjoyed that game and we want to see what those expansions add to it, and we're really looking forward to bringing that to you. We have a party game review that we're working on, and that's Pirate's Mark, and we'll be doing that very shortly. It's a good fun little game, and we will answer the same question: why does it belong in your collection, and if it belongs in your collection. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.